What's up, everybody? Today I'm in Sydney, Australia, and one of the things that I absolutely love about Sydney is the fact that if you're here for the history, you can really see a lot of Sydney's history completely for free at some of the best museums and sites that I have ever been to in my life. So stick around for the next 10 or so minutes. I'm going to show you the best way to see Sydney in really one day, all within a 7 or 10 minute walk from the Sydney Harbour, which means that if you're coming by a cruise ship or if you're staying in the CBD, everything that you see in this video can be done in really an afternoon if you're quick, but certainly within a 1 day period. One of the absolute must-sees here in Sydney is Bangaroo Reserve, which is just a very short distance, about a 10-minute walk from the main Sydney Harbour. And it's about a 15-minute walk from the CBD, which is where all the main hotels are. Now, the reason why this is a must-see is for a lot of different reasons, but it comes down to really two things. One, the history of this region, and two, the nature of this preserve. It's free to the public, it's great just to come down and get a stroll, but let's learn a little bit about its history and why it's so important.
We're walking on the land of the Gagal people, one of the 29 clans of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this area. For thousands of years, this was the place of gathering, fishing, and ritual for Aboriginal communities. Imagine a time long ago, before the skyscrapers and the bustling streets, when the Gagal people thrived here. They lived in harmony with the land, guided by a deep spiritual connection to the earth, the sky, and the water. Bangaroo was known for her defiance against colonial authority and her commitment to her people's culture and welfare. This reserve, revitalized with native vegetation, represents that resilience and continuity of the original Aboriginal culture. But the arrival of European settlers in the 18th century marked the beginning of profound changes. The Gagal people faced enormous challenges as their lands were encroached upon and their way of life was disrupted. Today, Bangaroo Reserve stands not just as a beautiful parkland, but as a testament to the enduring spirit and culture of the Aboriginal people of Sydney. It's a place where we can reflect on the past, acknowledge the impact of European arrival, and celebrate the ongoing contribution of Aboriginal culture to Australia's identity. To learn more about Bangaroo and the original Aboriginal communities around here, we can visit the Rocks Museum. As we walk through these halls, we're taken back in time. The exhibits here richly detail the Aboriginal way of life, long before the sails of the first fleet appeared on the horizon. This area, known to the Gagal people as Talawanlandal, was rich in resources and a focal point for gatherings and ceremonies. Look at these artifacts, fishing gear, hunting tools, and traditional artwork. Each piece tells a story of survival, ingenuity, and a deep respect for the natural world. Interactive displays offer a glimpse into the daily life, social structures, and spiritual beliefs of the Aboriginal communities. But as we move through the museum, the narrative shifts. These displays chronicle the transformation of the region with the arrival of European settlers.
Right now I am walking through the Rocks in Sydney, which is located just next to the harbour. Now today this is a series of fancy restaurants and shops, but back in the day this is where the original colonials settled. To get a good sense of what this would have looked like, you can really stop in two places. One, you can walk down the alley that I'm walking down right now, which is known colloquially as the Suez Canal, and the other thing you can do is you can go up and tour some of the original archaeological dig sites from the foundations of the settlements here, just up the road at the Big Dig. That's what I'm walking through right now. This was an archaeological site that preserves some of the original settlements here in Sydney after the colonials arrived. A lot of these materials and buildings here date back to the 18th and 19th centuries. If you're looking at the Sydney Harbour, then turn around, because one of the best historical sites that you can find is called Cadman's Cottage, and it literally is right here, next to the harbour. It's well worth your time. It's one of the earliest and best preserved houses in all of Sydney that dates to the colonial period. After you spend about probably 3 hours or so in the rocks, seeing all of these great historical sites, it's time to leave this area and go about 7 or 10 miles just outside of this region. We're going to go up to the Barracks. Now, it's important to remember that Sydney in Australia, for the colonials, was originally a penal colony. And one of the best ways to learn about this history is to go to the free exhibit at the Barracks by Hyde Park. So that's where we're going now.
As we step inside, we're entering a world that was once home to thousands of convicts, transported here from Britain and Ireland. This is where the story for many Australians began, in conditions that were harsh and unforgiving. The barracks are more than just a building, they're a portal to the past. Look at these hammocks, where convicts slept, and imagine the cramped and crowded conditions. Each artifact here, from the working tools to the personal items, tells a story. Survival, resilience, and hope. Convicts were not just prisoners, they were the backbone of the early colony's labor force. They built roads, bridges, buildings, many of which still stand today. Their toll laid the foundation of modern Sydney, shaping its early development.
Probably the second most iconic thing in Sydney is the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which is just behind me. So let's take a few minutes and learn about its kind of interesting history.
Let's dive into the story of this bridge's construction, a monumental task that began in 1923. It required over 1,400 men, 6 years, and vast quantities of steel to complete. This was more than just a bridge, it was a bold statement of progress and the capabilities of a young nation. The bridge's grand opening in 1932 was marked by an unexpected twist, however. Francis de Groot, a member of the right-wing paramilitary group, slashed the ceremonial ribbon with his sword before the official cutting. This act, though controversial, became a memorable part of the bridge's history, symbolizing the turbulent political climate of the time.
There is no doubt that the most iconic thing inside of Sydney, especially in the harbour, is the Opera House, which we can see just right there. But the story of how it was built is absolutely fascinating. Now, a tour here is going to cost you about $22, but if you stick around for this video just for the next few minutes, I'll give you most of the things that you'll hear about in that tour.
The story of its design is a tale of vision and ambition. Designed by Danish architect Jorn Utzon, the Opera House was selected through an international design competition in 1957. Its construction, however, was a saga of challenges, controversies, and triumphs, taking 16 years to complete. The construction of the Opera House was an engineering marvel. Its unique roof shells posed as a significant challenge, eventually solved by Utzon's pioneering use of complex spherical geometry. This iconic building wasn't just an architectural achievement, it was a leap forward in building technology. Inside the Opera House is just as impressive. It houses multiple performance venues, each designed to provide an unparalleled auditory experience. From opera to orchestra, from theater to dance, this place has become a beacon for the performing arts on a global scale.
So that's going to be all for this video. Hopefully now you have a really good idea about what to do in Sydney when you arrive. If you like this channel and you like this video, then please feel free to like and subscribe. I post content typically weekly on everything while I travel the world related to travel and history. I'll be traveling for the next 7 months across Asia and Europe, so be sure to check out those videos as well.